The next addition strategy that we're going to look at is adding on by place value units. Let's start with the problem 32 plus 17. So when we think about adding on by place value units, it means that we're going to decompose one addend and add on one place value unit at a time. So let's decompose the 17. It's made of 1 10 and 7 ones. We're going to start modeling our problem with modeling 32. So we know 32 is made up of 3 tens. So here are 3 tens. I'm using cubes. If you think back to our level 1 and level 2 strategy, cubes are a great tool for students that are kind of in this middle of the road between level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 is count all, so having cube sticks means that I could count all of the 10 ones in each 10, or I can count on by place value units and use 10, 20, 30, and then I can add 31, 32. Now that I've built my first addend 32, I'm going to add on my second addend by place value unit. My first unit is the tens, so I'm going to add 17, which is made of 1 10 and 7 ones. When I put these together, I can think I'm starting with 32. 1 10 more than 32 is 10, 20, 30, 40, 41, 42. So now I have 42. And then I can add to my ones, I can take the 2 plus 7 will give me 9. So let's think about how we could write this or draw a picture of what we did. So we can say that we started at 32. We added on 1 unit of 10, and we went from 3 tens, 2 ones, to 4 tens, 2 ones. And then we added 7 ones and went from 4 tens, 2 ones, to 4 tens, 9 ones. We could also write this out in equations. We started at 32 plus 10 equals 42, and 42 plus 7 more ones is 4 tens, 9 ones, or 49. We could also do this with base 10 blocks. You could also use a rec and rec to model this if you wanted. And students might also draw to show the picture. So I could start with 3 tens, 2 ones, and I'm adding 1 10 and 7 ones. So I have 32, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. Let's look at a problem with a larger numbers, more place value units, and this one also involves composing a new unit. So because the numbers are larger, we're not going to use cubes this time because modeling hundreds of cubes is pretty challenging, but we can use our base 10 blocks. So you can see, to start this problem, I have modeled with base 10 blocks 2 hundreds, 5 tens, and 8 ones. So that shows our 258. If I'm going to add on by place value units 123, I'm going to add on 100, 2 tens, and 3 ones. So when I add 100, I'm now up to from 258 to 358. Then I'm going to add on 2 tens. Now I'm at 368, 378. Then I'm going to add on 3 ones. So I am at 378, 379, 380, 381. So adding on by place value unit, which is kind of like counting on, only a little more complicated, I added 258 plus 123, and I got 381. Let's take a look at some other ways that we could model this. Let's look at this problem modeled with place value discs. So the biggest difference here is that all of these discs are the same size. They happen to be different colors, and they're labeled with a unit. That's how I know which discs represent hundreds, tens, or ones. But I can't count the parts that are in 100 or a 10, and I can't see the 10 tens that make 100 or the 10 ones that make a 10. So place value discs are still concrete objects, but they're more abstract. So this time, when I add 123 to the 258 that I started with at the top, I'm going to add my hundreds first. So now instead of 258, I have 358. Now I have 368, 378. Using 5 groups can help me keep track. Then I'm going to add from 378, I'm going to add my 3 ones, and I can see here that when I add those 3 ones, I'm composing a new unit of 10. So these actually move over here as a 10. So now I have 300, 8 tens, and 1 1 for 381. Let's look at another way we could model this. This strategy doesn't feel all that more efficient than counting on, except that we're counting on by units. Once we start to work on a number line, it starts to feel a lot more streamlined. So when I start at 258, I'm going to add 100, and that gets me to 358, and then 2 tens. I could add them 1 10 at a time and say 368, 378, or I can add them all at once. Then I add my 3, so I can either count on by 3, or I can add 2 to get me to 380. There's that make a 10 strategy, and then add 1 more to get to 381. I can also write this as equations. So 258 plus 100 equals 358, and 358 plus 2 tens, or 20, is 378, and 378 plus 3, whether I want to count on by 3 or make a 10, because I can think of this 3 as 2 and 1, it gets me to 381. Remember, the goal of this is mental math. So once students can show and explain their thinking on paper, hopefully they'll be able to do it in their head and become really quick and efficient with this strategy.